Hi, I'm Steve Ruth, professor in the School of Public Policy, and this short presentation is designed to answer only one question, and that question is, what will the online version of PUBP 503 in the School of Public Policy, that's Culture, Organizations, and Technology, be like this fall, the fall of 2014? What's it going to be like to take a course online? And since I've done 8 of these now online, I'm probably able to answer that question, and you need to decide based on this whether it's for you or not. But I try to give you as much information as I can. First of all, online courses are not the least bit unusual in graduate school or in colleges in general. About 1 out of 3 college students, there are about 20 million college students today, and about 1 out of 3 of them taking a course, at least one course, online. And at George Mason, we have thousands of online courses and quite a very large number in graduate programs, including several in the School of Public Policy. So they're not unusual, and many would argue, this is part of what I do research in, so I'm a little bit biased, but many would argue that this format is going to become more and more prevalent in higher education. As you know, there's only 3 meetings in this class. We don't meet 16 or 15 times. We meet 3 times, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I would urge you to ask other students who have taken courses with me or with other professors in our school or in other schools really on this format, because there's plenty of information out there from them as well as from the syllabus itself to help you decide as to whether this is for you. So let's go right to this presentation. Questions, concerns, frequently asked questions, and suggestions about this process. These are probably the best known and most frequently asked questions, and they basically concern the elemental issues associated with taking a college course. And when you take it online, is it the same material, exams, requirements, expectations, the same hours of your own individual work required? And the answer to all of those is a very strong and definite yes. But what's different? Well, on the positive side, at least many would consider it the positive side, the total of commuting time, that is coming to and from class. Remember, we don't meet 15 times, we meet 3 times as a group. My estimate is that between the commuting time and the actual in-class time that is not used, that there's a savings of around 70 hours that way. And that is a drastic reduction. However, it doesn't mean that the course itself takes a lot less of your total time, because it probably takes about the same amount of your total time, because there's vast amounts of content. Plus, of course, we have 6 books to read and several other reports that we'll be reading. And yes, except that a lot of the reports will be online. The books are in the traditional format. So those are all different. And there is an emphasis on frequent posts in class. If you're used in class to vigorous discussions where everybody contributes, that doesn't always happen in classes, but in online classes, that's the way it works. There's definitely a great amount of posting, and because everybody, that's the format that everybody has to follow. The posts are all visible. If you have a point to make, you make it to the instructor, but also to everybody else. And I must tell you that most of the students that I've talked to, and of course they write their course ending evaluations too, they seem to think that this idea of having plenty of discussion about one another's comments and about their own is pretty healthy. They seem to like it. There's certainly more writing, because every week you're asked to write 3 short posts about the material. And also every other week there's a formal post where you really have to think pretty deeply about a couple of aspects of the assigned material and write that out for us all to examine and comment on. There's obviously much more time spent online reading, researching, and posting. A lot of URLs are exchanged back and forth. There's a lot of comment when somebody finds something that is interesting. They send the URL and everybody looks at that and says, that's an interesting point. Maybe I agree with it, maybe I don't. There's a lot of emphasis on meeting deadlines in this format. I don't want you to think that's the way I am, that I'm some kind of ogre that just always insists on deadlines. But the literature overwhelmingly says that in this format, you really have to be sensitive to deadlines. So you'll notice that I always put deadlines in there, not just the day, but the hour when it's due. And most people get theirs in way ahead of that. But deadlines are far more significant, I think, in this format. And the literature and all the research on it indicates that that's crucial. And remember, half the course grade is based on online activity. The posts are completely online, and there's also a team project that's worth 20% of the grade. And that project is it's a research project that usually teams of 2 students do. And it includes audio. In other words, when you put it up there for us all to look at, we not only get the material you've assembled, but also an audio description of it. That has been very, very successful in these courses. And I'll give you samples of this approach, what it looks like, but it's been very successful, and I'm really pleased with the way students have handled that particular part of the course. The types of postings, they're formal and informal. The formal posts are based mostly on the assigned material, and your reflection on it, I say a 250-word minimum for a formal post, but most people do far more than that. And they're samples, so you can get an idea of what one looks like, and you'll have your own special way of doing it, I'm sure. The informal posts, as I've mentioned, are commenting on not only your posts, but other people's posts, and that's really what the class discussion is all about. On a typical week in a course with, say, 20 students in it, there'll be 80 posts for us to examine. And you might say, that seems like a lot. It really isn't when you get used to it, and I think you'll find when you talk to some of the students who have participated in this format that they're quite helpful and very interesting. Well, I've mentioned, I think, enough about formal and informal posts, but clearly they are the essential ingredient of the course because they are what amounts to the class discussion. So you'll see plenty of samples of these, as I mentioned. These are the criteria. I'm not going to go over every one of them because you can see them here, but they all make sense. This is what the rubric is sometimes called for posts. The one I would just remind you of is the URLs and citations. In this format, a lot of people don't just say, well, I think this, or I think that I disagree with that. They use citations. There'll be a lot of URLs in these posts that we can click on and go to and find more information about why the student felt that way. And of course, I'll be sending a lot of URLs myself. So in summary, the online courses present really similar material, exams, discussions, team projects, and the grading emphasis is exactly the same as in the normal class. But most of the work and the visible activity is done online. Assignments are submitted online, and of course I get back to you online. And most of the online discussion, except when we're in class together, most of the discussion is also online. So this is not for everyone, but if it is for you, if you decide it is for you, I'd be delighted to see you in the class. So these are just a few things to consider at the end. There are quite a few problems associated with having less face-to-face than you're used to. Instead of 15 or 16 classes only meeting for 3 face-to-face and all the rest of the activity online. There are challenges in this new environment that I may not have mentioned, and you probably, if you talk to other students who have taken my courses or other courses, you'll be able to get a better idea of those. And finally, you need to ask the question, is this something I really want to encounter? But if you do, I would be delighted to see you in class our first night, because the first time we meet it is together, and we'll get to know each other. And if you decide, as many others have, that this is a format you'll probably like, I'd be delighted to see you. Until then, thanks for joining me on this presentation, and I wish you the best.